We're going to the beach. Whoa, check out those barrels. Oh man. Beyond the Gates flew me out to the North Shore of Oahu to open our show on surfing. Well, we're actually still here at the Video One Studios in Laguna Woods. Green screen shots can take you anywhere in the world, really. We operate on a limited budget and can't afford flights and stays in Hawaii. Lucky if we get gas money for our local shoots. We are headed up to Santa Ana, California to chat with legendary shaper surfer Duke Aipa. So stay tuned and don't be a kook. Hey, welcome to Aipa Surfboard. This is cool. Hey, let's go ahead and meet the shaper. Today we are beyond the gates with world famous surfer Duke Aipa. Duke, man, thanks a lot for joining us here this morning.
My absolute pleasure.
It's got to be that the surfboard and water is part of your life, but can't you really go on further than that and say it's more of an essence thing? It's your soul.
It's really like a part of who I am as a person.
Yeah.
I was raised in the water. I was raised on a surfboard. I surfed before I learned to walk.
Right. Your father was Ben, who was a world famous surfer and who's actually redesigned the surfboard itself, correct?
Yeah, my dad was one of the most innovative surfboard shapers ever, and has impacted not only design of surfboards, but surfing itself. He's noted as being the first power surfer.
Okay, for the folks in the audience, some of us do not know surfing that well. What is a shaper?
A surfboard shaper is someone that, just like if you want a custom pair of pants, you go see a tailor.
Okay.
A surfboard shaper, you go see him for a custom pair of board. A board.
So people would come to you to have a board custom made, or to your father?
Oh,
or
yeah.
He just made these and said, he made the custom made surfboard, and people went, yeah, that's the one I want.
Well, it's just like you go to a store, you can buy things off the shelf. They're already pre-made boards made for specific size ranges of person, height, and weight that kind of work for a person. Or you can go completely custom and have something that is suited for your size, your height, your weight, your age, your abilities. And that's really where custom surfboard shaping comes in.
Do you remember your first ride on a surfboard?
My first ride? No, it was before I could walk. It was before I could talk.
Wow. Of all the places, I mean, you've surfed in Hawaii. You're brought up in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And besides surfing here in California and Hawaii, where else have you surfed?
Japan, Brazil. I've been around, but you know, it's hard to find another place that you want to escape from when you live somewhere where there's the best surf in the world and different kinds of surf all around the island, and then you have 6 other islands around you.
Yeah. So what is the appeal of big waves? I mean, that's what I love to watch on YouTube, is surfers conquering these 100-foot waves.
It's the pure rush, the adrenaline, the will I survive or not.
Have you done those big waves?
Not as big as the ones that they're getting on nowadays. I mean, you got guys surfing like 100+ foot waves at Nazaré. It's crazy.
That's dangerous.
I want to be part of that. I don't want to hold on for dear life. What I want to do is get on a medium-sized wave, maybe 8 to 10 foot, which is like a 20-foot face, and I just want to rip it.
Is it a specialty thing to ride those big waves, or it's just the adrenaline rush?
It's an absolute specialty thing. You don't do that if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And if you're not conditioned for it too. Same thing for regular surfing.
Yeah.
You just can't get in the water and think you're going to do it. You have to be conditioned.
Like a lot of folks who are watching this from beyond the gates are older surfers. Is there something you should do, a different board, a different way you should approach?
Well, generally, the older you get, the bigger the board gets. There are people that have surfed their entire lives that are very skilled surfers, and when they get to a certain age, it depends on what your physicality is too.
Yeah.
But you generally go a little bit bigger. Some guys want to stay on short boards, so they keep them short, but just make them a little wider, a little thicker, so there's a little more buoyancy.
So let's go the other way. If there's grandparents listening or watching to get their grandkids involved. How is that a different type of specialty? Should you teach them a certain way or just throw them in the water?
Well, if the family doesn't already have some kind of water knowledge in the family that can be passed down, father teaching his son how to swim, the first thing they should do is take their kids to a swim class. Learn how to swim, learn water safety, and then go into the ocean, because that's a whole different dynamic.
Yeah. Now, do you have a younger son or anybody who's going to pass along the dynasty?
I do. I have a son who is 18, just turned 18. He's graduating this year, which is really scary to think about. But right now, his interests are more in joining the Navy. He wants to be a Navy SEAL. He wants to protect his country. So God bless him for that. But God willing, he comes full circle back to the...
Is he in the water? Is he?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He rips.
Oh, okay.
For those of you home don't know what rip means, that means when you get on a wave on your board, you go... Not like Bruce Lee, whoa! Be like water.
You mentioned other interests. Do you have other interests besides surfing?
Oh, wow. My interests are all over the place. Growing up, since my dad was such a legendary figure and was this amazing surfer, sometimes it was a little bit being under his shadow. So I wanted to do other things to be myself.
Yeah.
Those things included like soccer, figure skating. Yes, figure skating.
Yeah, I can see that.
Hockey, loved hockey, especially when I could figure skate. I could outskate the hockey players and knock everyone on their butts. PG.
Got it.
Music, gosh, that was a favorite, especially when I turned 13 and found out about Motley Crue.
Oh, okay. You play guitar.
I started out drumming, took on guitar, bass, piano in there a little bit, but my true passion was singing. Still is. Singing. I get to sing every once in a while.
Do you sing while you surf?
I kind of do. What's great about it is if you're in the lineup, or lineups tend to be crowded. So if a lineup is crowded, it's hard for you to catch waves. So I found out that if I sing karaoke, or not karaoke because
you
there's
could
no
just
music
start to
behind
sing.
If I sing a cappella in the surf lineup, people tend to like go move away. Well, maybe this guy's not okay.
Back to surfing again.
Okay, surfing.
Have you ever come across a shark or something that's chasing you in the water?
I've never been chased by a shark. I have had them visit me or swim past me in a way. True story.
Yeah.
This is probably 2 days after I saw Jaws 2. I think I was like 10 or something at the time. I was paddling out. This is on the North Shore. Paddling back out to catch another wave, and the wave was breaking. And usually when the wave is breaking, you duck dive under it with your board. But as the wave was starting to break, a shark swam right across.
Wow.
So I swung around and took the wave in, and then paddled as fast as I could to get the rest of the way in.
Okay. So it's not a case of looking at a shark and going, it'll go away. No,
well, sometimes. I mean, it depends on the circumstance. I mean, I was 10, saw Jaws 2.
Okay.
So I didn't want any part of seeing a shark or being next to a shark. For the most part, I mean, sharks are there. They're just a part of what the ocean is. You're in their environment. And for us as Hawaiians, sharks are what we call our amakua, which is our family ancestors. So those that have passed on before live inside of sharks. So we don't necessarily fear them. We embrace them.
Okay. Was your mother into surfing as well?
She was. It's funny you say that because my mother is from the mainland, and my father was visiting the mainland from Hawaii, and he was surfing Malibu, and my mom was surfing Malibu, and my mom ran over my dad and then yelled at him for being in the way. And then they got married and had me.
What brings you here to California?
Well, in 2012, my father made the determination that between my brother and I, that he was going to pass the company over to me. So understanding business and opportunities, I saw the opportunity to grow the business if I moved it to the mainland.
Okay.
More access and whatnot.
Now we're standing in is this known as the shaping room?
This is the shaping room or shaping bay or what we call the pit.
Okay. Now are you shaping to just a certain design like you have, was it the Stinger that you have?
So I shape all kinds of boards, but our family is known for this design called the Sting. So in 1973, my father saw a boat race, and the fastest boat on the water at the time was the hydroplane speedboat.
Stays above the water.
It stays above the water, but that's a hydrofoil that lifts. Hydroplane is more about controlling the surface area to where it does lift, but only to a certain amount. Mm-hmm. So the fastest boat on the time was the hydroplane speedboat. He noticed when other boats were throttling back and slowing down to make a turn that the hydroplane was accelerating and pushing through the turn. So that cutout in the hull, he's like, oh, that allows for like an instantaneous pivot. He took that design concept, put it on a surfboard, and it created one of the biggest explosions in surf history ever. This happened at a moment of time where surfing was very dull. It was very straight. It allowed surfers to pivot faster, so there was a radical explosion of what we call high performance surfing. And that was the catalyst of that.
Was it other surfers of just observing him surfing? It's like, dude, how'd you do that?
No, he actually had some of the best in the world on his boards. At that time, there were an army of Hawaiian surfers that were leading the charge in high-performance surfing. But it was really Australian surfer Mark Richards that was surfing my dad's boards that made his design go what he called viral. It went everywhere. At the time, there was no viral computer.
Sure. Yeah. Did it all by instinct.
Yeah, so our family's known for that. Our family's known for that design. You can see it in almost every winged board today. It was the first winged board of its kind.
Is there a patent on that? Or
patent pending.
Patent pending. What got you into shaping?
Well, I was born into it.
Right.
You know, when other kids were playing with their toys at home,
yeah.
I was in my dad's shaping room playing with my toys in piles of foam. Probably not really good to breathe that in as a child, but hey, I'm still alive. But seriously, it's bloodline. You know, my father was one of the greatest shapers ever, but it goes back before him. Mm-hmm. There is a picture of a Hawaiian holding an alaya, which is a shorter wood board, with Diamond Head in the background. It's one of the most famous pictures of all time in surf history. Mm-hmm. First picture of a surfer in history. That was my great-great-grandfather. And in Hawaiian times, you didn't go to Walmart to buy your surfboard. You made it. You prayed on a tree, you cut it down, and you shaped it out of coral heads.
And what was his name?
Actually, Irish descent, Irish mixed in, James Gilman.
Oh, wow.
Full Hawaiian, never would guess it, James Gilman.
But I mean, it takes you off the water now to come in. Do you come in here every day and just, is it a case of, okay, I've got an order for this board, I've got an order for this board? And
I'm all over the place. I get in whenever I can. I could be in here every day, but I have other businesses going on. I have an apparel business that we're in the middle of working on, so I'm in everything.
An entrepreneur.
But in a nuts and bolts of why do I come in, I love it.
Yeah.
It's who I am.
Yeah.
This is what I do. I share my, what we call mana, or my energy, into a object that is going to go to a person that's going to create joy.
Yeah, okay.
Hopefully they don't have a bad surf session and not have joy, but the point is to create happiness.
Well, that's makes it. It's like I asked you up front about if it's surfing in the water so much of your essence. And that's what it is, and that you can give that love to somebody else who's going to take that board and ride it.
It's an extension of.
Yeah.
It's an extension of my love for the ocean. It's an extension of my bloodline joy and pleasure to build boards.
In your dynasty, sure. Duke, thanks. Appreciate the time here this
Easy.
morning. You got to get back to doing some shaping and some surfing.
Got to get dusty.
How's the surfing now?
Well, my sciatic has been acting up.
As we're taping this, it's raining out, so the storms.
Yeah, the rain, the cold weather, God, hurts my bones. Nah. Yeah. I'm working through some injuries, but I'll be back in the water when it's warmer out.
Okay. Thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
Creating joy until then.
Time now to meet up with Nadia Starner, checking out the Doheny surf statues with surf historian Tom Sutherland.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us here at Beyond the Gates. My name is Nadia Starner, and I'm going to be introducing you to the world-famous Doheny Beach in Dana Point. Today, my guest is local historian and surfboard maker Tom Sutherland. Tom, you've been in this area for your lifetime, right?
Born and raised in this area.
And what would you say is so special about this area when it comes to surfing?
Wow. Well, because of, for one thing, we have Doheny here, which was the epicenter of the longboard surfing era. The Beach Boys sang about it. Many people worldwide know about this place because of that song.
So there were lots of champions that came out here.
Lots of champions. We have them all here. This is a very special place. And this area had many, many good surf spots.
Well, first I'd like to start with a champion, not being biased or anything, but a woman surfer that has made records and has been notarized all over the world, Miss Joyce Hoffman. So here we are standing in front of Joyce Hoffman, and she is just my hero when it comes to
Mine
this
too.
area and surfing. And yours, you have a story about her.
Yeah, I worship the ground she walked. I mean, when I grew up at Pochi, at the end of Beach Road where they all lived, Hobie had a house on Beach Road. The Hoffmans had house on Beach Road. Gordon Clark had they used to call them the Dana Point Mafia. All the surfboard people had houses right at the end of Beach Road there, and I grew up at the beach, Pochi Beach, right there at the end of the road there.
And at that time they were like surf shacks. They weren't the $1 million.
Well, no, they were they were
smaller.
Yeah, smaller, like 50s, 60s style houses. The Hoffmans built pretty nice spread.
Well, Joyce's father or stepfather, Walter Hoffman, was a pioneer in this area himself.
Yeah, with the surf fabric, and he was a pioneer surfer, very influential with Hobie Alter. Had one of the first Malibu chips when they lived in Laguna Beach. And Hobie saw that board, and it changed his thinking on the shaping when he was 16 or 17 years old.
Well, Joyce being the first woman champion, did she bring more surfing to women or young girls?
Oh yes. She was a huge role model. She got good grades in school. She was always dressed to the nines, with her family being in the fashion, with the fabrics and everything.
Was it after her win that the movie Gidget came out?
No, that was after. She started relatively late.
Oh, I see.
11, 12 years old, I believe. But she was a natural athlete, and she surfed like Phil Edwards, and she had Phil Edwards helping train her, know.
Speaking of Phil Edwards, I want to mention The Endless Summer, one of surfing's most famous movies, and was filmed and born here in Dana Point. I mean, what kind of history is that? That's amazing.
Well, Bruce Brown was, started his, Dale Velzy gave him the money to start his first film, to go to Hawaii and do that. And Henry Ford and a bunch of people were in that movie from the California surfers he brought over there. But as time went on, he did many surf movies at the time, in the late 50s, early 60s. And Phil Edwards was his main star, because Phil Edwards was considered the best surfer on the planet at the time by all the surfers. He was the star in all of Bruce Brown's movies, Phil Edwards. So he had the best star of the surfboard world. So everybody wanted to see his films.
And Bruce Brown went around the world searching for the perfect.
Phil Edwards had just got married, didn't want to be gone for a whole year, and Bruce Brown actually had trouble finding people to take a year off to do that film.
So he couldn't find a beach bum?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of guys that were kicking themselves that didn't make that film
my God.
because it became such a huge success.
Oh my God.
And so you get.
Successes, though. Why don't we take a trip over to Phil Edwards' statue and talk about him some more?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay, and here we are with the man who can actually walk on water, who surpassed all other surfers with his ability to walk on the board, and also, I guess, was the first surfer featured in a sports magazine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sports Illustrated.
Tell us a bit about him.
That was a big deal. Well, to many surfers, he did walk on water because he was considered to be the best, one of the best surfers in the world by many of his contemporaries as well.
So he brought movement while surfing, while the others just stood on the board?
Well, he in the 50s when he was younger, he was walking the board and doing modern maneuvers on a longboard.
Right.
To where and he just had a panache and a style that was just way beyond everybody else, and a wave knowledge and a sixth sense, and the athletic ability. A lot of surfers, I think, we're like gymnasts too. You gotta have a little gymnastics in you. And Phil Edwards kind of epitomized what a surfer should look like, how he should surf, and he became one of the greatest. And in his day, he was the Kelly Slater of
world renowned and
surfboard.
just a beautiful surfer.
And instrumental in with the surfboard production process. He had the first model, Phil Edwards model, in surfboards.
So a board
nobody else had a board named after them that was a model.
Oh, wow.
That was a first.
Wow.
And he didn't like surfing contests, and he was didn't like the
limelight.
The limelight or the notoriety of that whole thing, because he liked it for its pure form. He was a purist.
Nice.
And they drag.
So unlike Christian Fletcher, who brought the acrobats.
Yeah. Well, Christian Fletcher. There's another thing. That's Joyce Hoffman is his aunt.
Oh, really?
Christian Fletcher. Yes.
Wow.
Because Herbie Fletcher married D.B. Hoffman, who is Joyce Hoffman's sister.
How interesting. So once a surfer is famous, they're famous for their area and what they've done?
Well, we have the internet now, so you can go back and watch them surfing in contests and watch them. See, Phil was in all the movies. So he was world recognized, or at least in the surfboard thing, in the 60s and 50s in America, to the surfers.
Yes.
And then as the 60s emerged and the surfboard thing with the Gidget era exploded into a fad that became, now they have display in the Smithsonian. It's part of the culture now.
But we still have our world-renowned surfers and innovators in Dana Point that we can always look at. This area here Dana Point has luckily built statues to represent our city and represent the famous people that made our city happen. Here I have Severson. What's his first name?
John Severson.
John Severson.
John Severson had the Surfer magazine, the first magazine of surfers and surf stories.
I remember looking at Surfer magazine and falling in love with
that. Was a huge thing in the beginning when they had that. It was just a shoestring budget. But John Severson also did the original logo for the Hobie Surfer, the Hobie Diamond.
So he was an artist.
John Severson was an artist and a graphic designer.
Nice. All right, so we transitioned to a new spot here to show our Dana Point's world famous pioneer of surfing and sailing, Mr. Hobie Alter. Can you tell us a bit about him and his lifestyle?
Oh man, this is our fearless leader right here. This is the man that made
Dana Point.
Well, a lot of things possible in surfboards. He created some of the first foam.
With Grubby Clark?
Grubby Clark was an employee of his, a laminator, and had a chemistry degree.
Oh.
And they teamed up because they were running out of balsa wood. And Hobie was getting all these orders because the Gidget the Gidget movies and the whole fad. It was a fad.
And he was making them in his
And
yard or garage in
he
Laguna Beach?
Hobie was building the boards at the original location on Coast Highway at that time, but they were building hundreds of boards, not thousands of boards. By the time the Gidget movies came, and he needed to relocate so he could fill all the orders that he was.
His father wanted him out of his garage.
Yes,
that's why he came down here.
That's what got him in his first. The father helped him with the original location.
That's a quick fix.
And to get him out of the and that started the first Hobie surfboard location that was a showroom and a manufacturing. But by 1960, 61, they had so many orders, they outgrew the factory.
And this is where surfboards went from heavy wood boards to the light foam boards you ride today.
Hobie was instrumental in creating a foam core product. There were other people that did it too, but he pulled it off, manufactured his own foam blanks, and then ended up giving the business to Gordon Clark, which tells you what kind of man Hobie Alter was, and it's just a handshake. Here, you take this.
Yeah.
I don't want to be involved in the foam making. I want to build the surfboards.
Now, is it true that he was a man that just loved to play and loved this lifestyle and wanted everyone to share in this?
That's right. He considered himself a toy maker.
Wow.
And I never understood, but I never really liked that phrase, a toy, making toys. But he was making
skateboards, gliders.
He made boards and that pertain to the surfboard, to the lifestyle
of surfing.
And they were toys that people had fun on, and they were toys.
Did he actually take the metal wheel of a skateboard and invent the polyurethane wheel?
No, well, what happened was they had the hard clay. They were like roller skating wheels, but they were early forms.
And
so
he
the
had
original
part in
Hobie skateboards he made his own wheels and own trucks.
Well, growing up, don't you remember making your own skateboard?
Oh,
Nobody
absolutely.
bought a skateboard.
Yeah, we took skates off of roller skates and nailed them onto board. But I had one of the first Hobie skateboards on my block.
I hope you still have it.
I have one I have one.
I want to just make note to anybody that would like to go to the Dana Point Harbor to make sure to make a stop here at this little area where the bridge takes you over to Doheny. You can park in the Denny's parking lot or Carl's Jr., but there is so much history on our industry of surfing in this little area that it's a must-see.
Thanks for staying tuned and not wiping out and bailing. Take care and shaka, dude.